Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is a bit of a recap video of Dice Tower West. This was my first time going to Dice Tower West. I just came back, and I want to talk about my experience, the people I saw, the games I played, the games I wanted to play, what I got out of the convention, what you might get out of the convention if you go to it, and just a general talking about the convention. Now, first of all, to the best of my knowledge, well, I shouldn't say best of my knowledge because I definitely am missing some stuff, but some basic general stats about Dice Tower West. Dice Tower West this year had 3,000, just a little over 3,000 attendees this year. I believe Dice Tower East has around 1,800, and Dice Tower Retreat has around 250. I don't know how many BGG Con has. If you know that, let me know in the comments down below. I'm very curious how many they have. We're actually going to be hosting our own convention very shortly, July 14th through 16th in Connecticut. I'm going to be having the Level Up Retreat hosted by myself, by Board Game Co. And this is a very interesting learning experience as far as some of the things I enjoyed, didn't care for, just ways to, well, ideally give people a good experience. I've been going to a lot of conventions ever since things started opening up post-COVID. Before that, I didn't go to a single convention. I've been in this hobby since 2012, but I never really felt the need to go to a convention. They're expensive, they're a big investment, games are not the cheapest there, and they're great for playing games, but I generally don't have a hard time playing games, and so I kind of didn't go to conventions at first, until I started entrenching myself more in the board game space, past my own game group, but into the bigger ecosystem, and since then, it's been one of my favorite things that I do nowadays, going to conventions. And there's two primary types of conventions. There's exhibitor conventions like, Gen Con, Origins, PAX Unplugged, and then there's gaming conventions like BGG Con, Dice Tower West, and many more. And then there's, of course, WSBG, World Series of Board Gaming, which is its own special snowflake in the sense that it's a competition convention, although you can also just go and play games. So there's a lot of different opportunities out there, but I've been going to a bunch of these. I've been going to Origins, to Gen Con, to PAX Unplugged, I've gone to WSBG, I've gone to Dice Tower West. I feel like I'm missing one or two that I've gone to, but these are the conventions I mostly have been going to. Why Gamma? I've gone to Gamma. Gamma's a kind of a different little duck as well, in the sense that it's more of a industry convention. So you go there if you're a retailer, a distributor, media. But if you're more in the space as a job, then you go to Gamma. So there's a lot of different conventions, and Dice Tower West is more focused on the playing games side of things. The focus there is not the exhibitors. They have exhibitors. They have, maybe 12 to 15 exhibitors, something like that. I'd have to double check. I think there's 3 rows and then maybe 60, so maybe 18 exhibitors, somewhere around that range. Maybe it's more, I don't know. It was 3 rows of exhibitors, however many per row, and that's what they have as far as their exhibitors at Dice Tower West. Enough stuff to go ahead and do some shopping if you're interested, but not so much that was definitely not the focus. If you want to pop by, Arcane Wonders, if you want to pop by All Play, they definitely had booths there where you could buy games, accessories, bags, Dice Tower merch, things like that. They definitely had all of that at the convention, but it was not the core focus. The core focus is playing games, and to that end, there's giant halls full of playing games. They had 2 big halls, absolutely jam-packed with people playing games. That's before we get into all the offshoot ways to play games, because they had the main hall, the other main hall, I think it's called the Amazon main hall, and again, the first main hall, what I'd probably say was in the range of, 50 to 80% full at any given time. The Amazon Hall was maybe 20 to 50% full at any given time, so there's room to grow, there's room to expand, and I believe this was their biggest year yet. There's also the Hot Games Room, where they had basically around 20, I'd say 20 to 30 hot games pre-set up that were just available for you to play. Both established games that have come out, as well as various prototypes that either are currently available to back or, available to late pledge or things like that. They had a bunch of games available, a whole bunch of amazing games, some incredible experiences in the Hot Games Room. Some tables were full 100% of the time. I wanted to play Wayfarers of the South Sea, I think it is. Wayfarers of the South Tigris? Wayfarers of the South Sea. I wanted to play Wayfarers, the newest game from Shem Phillips' line. Did not have a chance to because the table was full 100% of the time. I wanted to play Turing Machine. Did not have a chance to because the table was full 100% of the time. I wanted to play Revive. These are all games from the Hot Games Room. I wanted to play Revive, but I didn't have a chance to, although that was a different reason. Revive was actually not full 100% of the time. I even learned the rules to Revive to play it. I was going to play Revive with Thinker Themer, but they ended up having their own little Joey Fam corner for their Joey Fam, and so they didn't want to leave their group, so we ended up playing different games, Mind Management instead. But I learned Revive, and now I want to play Revive, so I'm all prepped to go on that. I did have a chance to play DEI, Divide et Impera, in the Hot Games Room, and people kept asking me what my favorite game at the convention was, and it was DEI. It was not a new to me game, but it was the favorite game that I played. In fact, a few of the favorite games I played at Dice Tower West were games that were not new to me. I'll be going through all the games I played at some point in this video. We'll be talking about that. Right now, I'll be going through all the people I met, the games I played, the games I wanted to play. I'll read off of my phone all these various details. For right now, I'm just focusing on general feeling and things. So, very big focus of playing games. They have the 2 big halls, they have the Hot Games Room, they had a whole prototype aisle where basically people can come and showcase their prototypes at any stage of production. You want to go ahead and play anything from Cosmoctopus. We had Brief from Lucky Duck Games was walking around showing people Cosmoctopus, which is a game I wanted to play. We had Potions of Azurland, which is on the tables as well. You can play Potions of Azurland coming up from Warped Reality, I think it's something along those lines as far as the name of the company. So they had a bunch of their prototype alley you can go ahead and play. They had a few other things as well. WSBG, the World Series of Board Game, was there. Chris George was hosting WSBG, running a bunch of, what's it called? There's a term for it. The WSBG... There's a term I'm forgetting as far as what they ran. The qualifiers for WSBG. So you can go ahead and win an entry to WSBG and paid hotel, paid everything for that. You can go ahead and get that taken care of. There were a few other rooms as well, a few other places. They had a giant hall full of the various panels that were given. So they had various people giving panels. I gave a panel at one point. The Dice Tower had their top 10 or top 5 things they're sickest of. In fact, it was actually funny. At one point, I was walking past the panel room as Tom Vassell was walking in there, and he's like, "You're my number 4," and I didn't know what the topic was. So I was like, "Oh, thank you," and I just thought it was like maybe top content creator or something. I thought it was something positive, and then I saw the title. It was like top 5 things I'm sick of, and I realized it was a little bit more tongue-in-cheek than that, but it was, I think overall those are the main areas. We had the playing games, the prototype alley, the exhibitors, the Hot Games Room. They had a flea market at one point that was completely packed and overflowing. And I think that was the main focus of everything going on there. They had great signage up left, right, and center. You came in, you got a little bit of a packet, a booth, a little bag with their schedule. You can check that out. There was signage left, right, and center as far as the various scheduling, the events, the places. Great signage left, right, and center. They had the library room where you can go out and check out games. Something like 6,000 games in the Dice Tower West library. They have a lot of games in their library, a lot of opportunities, and a great checkout system. You can go to any person, check, and just see what they have available at any given point, and go say, hey, that shelf, whatnot, scan it out, and then return it whenever. Not whenever, but return it. And that's the overall gist of the convention. This is taking place in Las Vegas, which means that in addition to the convention itself, there's any number of things people could do. Places you can eat, shows you can go to, a ton of different options, of which I went to a bunch, planned and unplanned, while I was there, that I had an opportunity to try other experiences, although for the most part, board games are still my favorite experience there. At the end of the day, all the other things you can see and do, they're shows, they're fun, they're interesting, but they're not why I went to a convention. This was one of my favorite conventions so far, possibly because of a variety of experiences, but mostly it comes down to the people. I have found time and time again, I think the first convention I went to where I was like, this is my favorite convention so far, was probably Gamma. And that was probably because I was hanging out with a lot of people who I'm friends with, who I know, and I got to spend a lot of time with those people, and I really enjoyed that. I think from there, WSBG became one of my favorite conventions because it was very small and homey, and just it was very easy to hang out, to see people to meet new people. I never felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of people. WSBG was very homey, and it made me understand why Dice Tower Retreat as a convention is capped at like 250 people, and I understand why, because it gives you a very nice homey feel where you get to learn and know everyone. It becomes a kind of a sense of recognizing people, contrasted with Gen Con. Like Gen Con was so busy and overwrought that when I went to Gen Con, I found I was running from room to room to room the entire time, and it was great, and I enjoyed myself at Gen Con a lot, but running to a meeting that you're already running late on, and then running into someone along the way who's like, "Hey, Alex, Board Game Co., and I'm like, I want to say hi, I want to talk, and I want to engage, but I can't because I'm late. I don't like that feeling. I'm like, hi, I gotta go, I want to talk to people. I like that sense of interaction, and WSBG definitely gave me that, and Dice Tower West as well. Dice Tower West was somewhere in the middle of those things. It was not as homey as WSBG, but not nearly as large as Gen Con, and so for the most part, people who saw me, people who came up and talked to me, if you're one of them, thank you for doing so. I appreciate when people, like, it's something that Tom Vassell always says, he thanks people for coming up to him, and it's helpful because it tells you that interaction is wanted. And I appreciate that because speaking to someone who also sees people in the space who I know and have no relationship with. So this is it's intimidating to be like, do I walk up to that person who doesn't know me and just because I know them? And for me, the answer is yes. Please do. Walk up, tell me whatever it is, what you get out of the show or not, anything, whatever you want to talk about at all. You want to play a game, invite me to play a game. At the end of the day, if I'm in a rush, I'll say so, and if I can't play a game, I'll say so. But I do play games, and I do talk to people, and I got to play games with a variety of people who are Patreons, people who are viewers, people who barely know my channel exists. I got to play games with a variety of people, and of course, friends who I know already. There were a lot of people I played games with. Overall, I really enjoyed the convention, but there were definite highlights to me along the way, which is where I start going into, well, let's go through a whole lot of lists here. Let's start with the people who were there, because there were a lot of people there. There was Thinker Themer there. Thinker Themer, who I don't get to see that often. I think the last time I saw them was probably at not WSBG, at Gamma. At Gamma? Did I see them at Gamma? Yeah, Thinker Themer I saw at Gamma last year. Got to play a game with them then, a Stefan Feld game. I almost played another Stefan Feld game. We grabbed Mind Management and Castle Burgundy and ended up playing Mind Management with them, which we really enjoyed. Amy won. It was Amy against Maggie, Professor Meg, and myself, and Amy definitely managed to escape us. We tracked her to a certain extent, but ultimately she managed to just evade our attempts to capture in Mind Management, which was very solid. Chris George, I mentioned already there. Chris George, WSBG, always enjoy spending time with him. He's also in a bunch of the games I played. I played a bunch of games with him while I was there. I played a few games of Splendor. I played Castle of Burgundy with him. We had the Dice Tower crew in general. We had Tom, we had Roy, we had, I'm going to forget people, Tom, Roy, Camilla, Mike, Z, Mark Street was there. Obviously Tim Medivere, who's running Dice Tower West. Tim Medivere is the person who, he owns Meepleville Cafe, and he runs Dice Tower West every single year, and he does an absolutely fantastic job. This convention is incredibly impressive at what it does, and Tim is just an absolute prince to talk to work with. It's just a tremendous human being. I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch of people on the Dice Tower crew. I'm certain of it. I said Mike, I said Roy, I said Z, Tom, Camilla. I know I'm forgetting people, and if I am, I apologize. We had a bunch of people from our Patreon in general, people you don't necessarily know, but there's people from our Patreon who from our either our Discord or Patreons who I managed to run into. I ran into a bunch of Patreons and a few people from our Discord who were there. We had a few friends that I met, some friends I met at WSBG, Gray, who I constantly introduce. Gray. Oh my gosh, what's his last name? Or is his first name Gray? No, his first name is Gray. I always forget his last name, but Gray, who is a 2-times winner of WSBG, he won Splendor and Dune Imperium. He's got 2 rings for that, and we met him at WSBG, and he's someone who is here because he's part of Warped Reality Games and whatnot, and Warped, again, I can't remember the exact name, but coming out with Potions of Aslan, got to hang out with him and his crew, with Tyler, with Bryce, with Gray. We have a Brief from Lucky Duck, I already mentioned. Andrew Santaro from Chip Theory Games, a tremendous human being, lots of fun to play with. I mean, I played a game of Wavelength with him, with Chris George. That was with him, Chris George, Professor Meg, and it was an absolute blast. Possibly my funniest moment of the entire convention was playing Wavelength, and it's not a game I particularly love, but it had some tremendous moments in it. Brief from Lucky Duck, I mentioned. John D. Clare. I got to officially meet and hang out with John D. Clare. I've talked to him in the past, but I've actually spent time with him. We got to play both DEI as well as Rolling Heights with him. Both fantastic. Ironically, DEI, which is a game that I've basically won almost every single play I've had of it. He came in, learned the game, and just wiped the floor with me in a heartbeat, and then proceeded to have himself beat by Rolling Heights, his own game, where he actually came in last in that game because he didn't manage to make something work. So I found that dichotomy interesting. We have a bunch of, who else do we have here? We have Vlad from AEG, who's, again, Prince of a Human Being. Tim Chun, who I did a panel with Tim Chun, Professor Meg, and myself. The panel I did was how to play more games, and it was an interesting experience. For all I do on camera over here, and this is worth knowing, if you ever see me at a panel in the future, and I will be doing panels in the future because it's a skill I want to develop. It's something I want to get better at. But something I may have talked about this in the past, but I have a horrific fear of public speaking in general. I've always hated public speaking. I've always appreciated the joke. It's a Seinfeld joke that the number 1 fear in America is public speaking, and the number 4 fear is death, which means most people would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. And I think that resonates with me. I've always hated public speaking, despite what you see me do over here, this whole on-camera stuff. Talking to a camera right here, not a big deal. Even talking live to a camera with like that kind of distance, it works great. Talking one-on-one with people, again, tremendous. If I'm in a group of people, if I meet you at any convention, it's amazing. But the thing that I have historically sucked at, and the thing that this is my first time doing in a long time, was talking to a group of people. Public speaking, a group of people, not of one-on-one, not like 3 or 4 people, but a full-on group of people. I talk with a lot of content creator friends about the nature of imposter syndrome, the idea that you don't deserve to be there, the idea that you're not, like, people like watch you and value your opinion, you have this like imposter syndrome that you don't deserve to be the person that you are, and I generally don't have that. I think that what I do is very fun, very cool, and I appreciate the everything else going on, but like I generally don't have imposter syndrome. Until, that is, I gave a panel where I was standing on not standing, sitting at the top of a podium, looking into a crowd of people, and suddenly I very much had imposter syndrome, and it didn't feel completely comfortable to me. If you went to the panel, first of all, if you went to the panel, thank you for showing up. Secondly, if you went there, you probably yourself picked up on the difference between me giving the talk towards the end. We went into a bit of a Q&A and people started asking questions, and there I just went back to being myself, because I can talk about board games from today until tomorrow, but giving a pre-scripted routine to a live audience that felt so off to me. It felt very different, and while it was not the horrific fear of public speaking I've had in the past, it was also not the comfort level I have in front of a camera. And so, thank you for showing up. It's something I'm going to be doing more of, because it's something, again, I want to be in this space, and I want to be in this space for a long time, and I enjoy what I do, I love what I do, and if that means, and I like interacting with people, and I could just say, sure, I'll never give a panel again, and I'll just take that off the plate, but I don't want to do that. I like building connections, and I like the people in this space, and so instead, it's something I'm going to keep doing, I'm going to get better at, hopefully, and if you show up at any panel or live speaking event I do in the future, I ask for your grace as I feel a bit off compared to what I seem like over here. We have Bands, another content creator. You know, we had George O'Neill. I always say that. Oh my gosh, George Joppel, George something, who runs Nero, who does a lot of the Kickstarter videos you're seeing. My first time getting to meet him in person. That's not true. That's not true. I saw you at PAX Unplugged, George. My first time getting to actually have a conversation and even play a game with. I played Scout with George, which was great. I'll enjoy that. Brian Greer, who I did not get to play a game with, but I did get to go to an escape room. Brian Greer from Game Brigade. He was actually in Ohio just a few weeks ago, but I got to go to an escape room with him. We'll talk more about that later. With various patrons I mentioned already. We had Andrew Bosley. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite, possibly my favorite new person from this convention was Andrew Bosley. And it's someone that, it's interesting because I found out Andrew Bosley was going to be there. He's doing the art for Potions of Azaland from the game I mentioned already. And Andrew Bosley, I found out he was going to be there, and I kind of just didn't care. I was like, whatever, he's an artist, he's one of my favorite artists, but I don't know him, and so I don't really care. He does great art. That's amazing. And so what? But then I actually got to meet him, and I really enjoyed my interactions with him. I really strongly enjoyed talking to him and just having a conversation around what it's like to be in a space that you love, a space that you're a fan of. And possibly my new favorite person from the convention was, in general, meeting Andrew Bosley. And in fact, they Potions of Aslan, they're making Professor Meg a promo card in the game. And so I got to sit there for like an hour watching him go from start to finish on well, not finish, mostly finish, on straight up drawing her and putting her in the game. And it's fascinating to watch somebody that skilled at what they do, like messing around with the tablet, being able to draw. And I draw a bit, and so I've drawn in the past, and I have a appreciation for just the depth of skill that Andrew Bosley has, the comfortableness he brings to the table. Tremendous human being. I'm possibly my favorite new person. We have an interesting story over here. We'll talk about that, but the events. But we have Alex Schmidt. Alex Schmidt, someone who works for Stonemaier Games. I've run into him a few times in the past. Got to play War of the Ring of the card game with him. Had a great time doing that. We have various publishers and various people that we'll not get into. We won't get into everyone. But we have Nick Murphy, Shay Parker, Juan from QVO Games. QVO Games, if you don't know, he's a channel who does a bunch of retail discussions. Just check it out if you want to know. You know, if you're coming to my channel for all the Kickstarter stuff, but you want to know the retail games coming out every single week, Juan from QVO Games does a great job doing that. That's QVO Games. Check it out. He talks almost as fast as I do, or I think he starts off talking as fast as I do, and then he slows down a bit. But he starts off as fast as I do, which means you should be able to follow just fine if you're watching my channel. Joe from One Sharp Joe. If you haven't heard me talk about One Sharp Joe in the past, One Sharp Joe does fantastic inserts. He does the Marvel United insert, the Marvel Champions insert, the Minion insert. I have a bunch of inserts from One Sharp Joe. You've seen some of them, and you haven't seen others yet. But he does tremendous stuff. Got to hang out with him, go to dinner at one point. Stephen Bonaker's there. And that, I think that covers most of the people. There's a few people. I didn't go to every single person. I'm trying to navigate between the people you might know or have heard of and the ones you haven't. Then as far as let's do things we did. So a bunch of things that I did while I was there. I mentioned already, an escape room. Went to an escape room with a bunch of people that, including Brian from Game Brigade. It was a horror escape room. And fun fact, also not fun fact, I don't know why I said fun fact, but I enjoyed it. It's my second real life escape room. I've done a ton of escape room games, but this is my second escape room in real life, and I really enjoyed it. I thought they did a really good job of setting the mood, setting the atmosphere, and having you freaked out about every single thing you did as you did this escape room, and I liked that. It provided a sense of tension that took a bit to adjust to and took a bit to trust the system. But after that, it gave a heavy layer of atmosphere over the top of the game. And it's a game. At the end of the day, if you consider Unlock a game, an escape room is a game too. And it's a group of 4 people working together, 5 people working together to try to figure out the challenges. And I really appreciated, and again, I've only done one escape room in the past, but I appreciated how everyone got to have a chance having a hand at something. So like, I didn't have a hand in every puzzle, but I helped with some, primarily solved others, and I feel like everyone had that dichotomy where they added a lot of value in some places, a little bit of value in others, and then didn't participate at all in others, so that we were all involved in the solution of the escape room. That, combined with the horror theme, did a solid job. We had BattleBots. This is actually a fun little story where someone who I traded games with, them, my first trade since shutting down Board Game Co. I traded Merlin Big Box for Sentinels of the Multiverse and Witchstone, and I engaged with the trade with them. And it's a whole longer story, but effectively they kind of went AWOL for a few weeks, and I just wasn't sure if I was being cheated or not. But they eventually showed up again. They're like, "Oh, sorry, here you go. Like, here are the games." I completely missed it. I'm so sorry. And they did that, and they were at Dice Tower West, so they actually technically weren't at Dice Tower West much as they were in Vegas at the time, but he saw I was there and he reached out and he's like, "Hey, I have extra tickets to BattleBots. Do you want to come see BattleBots?" Which is basically where people slaughter robots and smash them up back and forth. Like, and you get to watch that in real life. It's a TV show that's been going since the 80s or something. I've never watched it once, but Professor Meg, who was with me, like she's like hugely into it, and she was like obsessed with the whole thing. And it was fun to go to this giant event and like upfront seats and just see the whole thing, as far as see this event that these robots being completely butchered. It was a very entertaining event. Not necessarily something that I'd go to again, because it's like I feel like I saw what it's doing, but it was very fun to be up front and watching a bunch of robots, apparently iconic robots from the show, go at it and destroy everyone. Then there's Penn and Teller. I went to go see Penn and Teller, and you may know this if you watch the show already, if you watch me for who knows how long, but I've been into Magic since I was like 11 years old, and I was heavily into Magic for a while, and for now it's like a gone hobby for me. It's like something I'm not really into nowadays, but I still know how to do Magic and I still appreciate it, and I've read dozens of books and variety of magicians, including Penn and Teller. I've watched their Magic shows, I've watched Full Us, I've watched the original Amazon one, Bull thing I think it's called, but yeah, I love Penn and Teller. They are my favorite magicians by far. When I went to WSBG last year, I wanted to go see them, and they unfortunately got COVID, and so they canceled all the shows. But I finally got to see Penn and Teller, and I really enjoyed it. They are entertaining. I usually am not that much of a fan of seeing like full-on events, because I find they're often very expensive, and I'm usually okay with them. But I really enjoy Penn and Teller, and it's the kind of thing that if I knew that the show was different time to time, I'd probably go again, but I do always question how different are they, show to show. And that's something that I'll have to figure out before, because I'm sure I'll be in Vegas again, and I enjoy Penn and Teller. I'd consider seeing them again if the show's actually different. If it's the same, not quite as entertaining. I mentioned the escape room already, then a variety of group dinner stuff, like a variety of just like going out to various meals with a bunch of friends and having just a good time hanging out and just schmoozing and whatnot, and really enjoyed that. I almost got to see something called Omega Mart, which looked like a fascinating, bizarre, twisted reality type event where you go to a superstore. It's not really a superstore, and it also has like hidden rooms and things. Unfortunately, I didn't at the very end because the last day was just too crammed, but I almost got to see that. And then I think the thing I probably enjoyed the most is the same thing I've enjoyed the most the last time I was in Vegas, even arguably more than Penn and Teller, is just the fountains. Right in front of the Bellagio, they have fountains. These giant just fountains, water shows, whatever. They have a garden inside as well, and it's just a very nice thing to be at. I just like, first of all, the cost is free, which is amazing, but more importantly, I don't know what it is. I don't like nature. In general, I don't like nature. Like the gardens not really my jam, but water, something about water I find peaceful and calming, and I always have. And I really enjoy the water show at the Bellagio. Got to see that one night. I think right before the escape room, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's before I went to the escape room. But I really enjoy the fountains at the Bellagio. I enjoyed it last time, and it's something I think I'd make a regular trip to. Just standing there for half an hour and just watching the water. But if you're looking for something fun to do in Vegas, it's cheap, and it's a lot of fun, and it's very cool looking. It's better at night, though. Past that, the games I played. So let's go through the games I played, as well as the games I want to play. Well, let's talk about the games I wanted to play first. The games I missed out on, the ones I hoped to. Wayfarers, I already mentioned. I wanted to play Wayfarers, did not. Revive, I even learned the rules, did not. Monikers, we tried to check out from the library like 3 or 4 times, and every time I was gone, unfortunately. Mechs and Minions, I had this plan to continue playing Mechs and Minions that I never got to play this time. Turing Machine, the table was taken all the time. DEI, even though it's a game I got to play, it's a game I wanted to play more. I kept on offering everyone. I was offering anyone I could meet, like people I knew, people I didn't know. I was offering them to play DEI, but I only got to play DEI once the whole time I was there. I wish I had played it more. I really like DEI a lot. I enjoy teaching it. I enjoy playing it. It's a great game, and so DEI I want to play more. Dune Imperium, twice I almost got pulled into a game of Dune Imperium and then didn't work out. Pagan Fate of Roanoke is a 2-player game that I only played during the crowdfunding campaign. I learned the rules, I prepped, I did not get to play it, unfortunately. Unconscious Mind, I think I brought a prototype from of Unconscious Mind to the show, and Unconscious Mind is an amazing game, and I was looking forward to playing it again, but unfortunately did not get to. Cosmo Octopus, I was really hoping to play it when Bree from Lucky Duck was showing it around, but I unfortunately did not get the chance to play that one. And lastly, Age of Atlantis, I had plans to play that the last day with Brand Brinkerhoff, the creator of Oros, and I had plans to play Age of Atlantis, but unfortunately that did not work out as well. And those are a bunch of the games that I wanted to play that I did not get tabled in the end. From the ones I played, most of them are not new to me. I think I maybe played 6 or 7 games that are new to me, and then a whole bunch more that were not. I played just one. Great game, had a good group of people, followed it up, or played Resistance first, the Resistance Avalon, then Just One. Again, both good games that I get a chance to play often because of the player count. I played through Truck 12, which I think to me is a game that I'll be covering on the channel, I'm sure, but I enjoyed it, but I think I'm ready to move on from it. I think Truck 12 was fun, but it was also a game that I want to unlock the envelopes and then move on from it. It has unlock systems, and I like unlock systems. But then after that, there's other game systems I think I prefer. Street Fighter. I got to dive back into Street Fighter from Colossal Games. That's one that I covered the prototype already, and I had a chance to play it, and it's just really, really fun. It's one that I actually sat down to teach. We had some people demoing games for the Game Found Hot Games room, and the goal was to basically just teach him the game. But I was having so much fun teaching him that we just ended up playing the full game instead until we lost. It's a hard game. DEI, I mentioned already, I got to play Habitats from Board Game Tables. That's one that I wanted to try because it's similar to Nova Luna, Sagani, and Framework, the systems that I enjoy. But ultimately, I felt it was good, but it added a bit more fiddliness and a little less streamlinedness than the other ones. So for me, the other ones are a better fit for me. Dead Last was a great party game. I got to play with a whole bunch of people. It's basically kind of similar to Cash and Guns, where ultimately the goal was to mess each other over and screw each other over and betray each other. And I enjoyed going through Dead Last. I enjoyed the play of Dead Last. It was a lot of fun. It was just like another party game with a large group of people. Lots of the games were larger groups of people. Lots were smaller. We have Wavelength. I mentioned already. Possibly my favorite moment of the convention. It's like one of those you have to be the moments, but someone gave a clue that was very funny, that involved a whole lot of laughter, but Wavelength is a lot of fun. Project L. Project L is a great game I have not played in a while. Simple tableau building polyominoes, got to play that one. Rolling Heights got to play again, which I enjoy Rolling Heights. This one's actually the new Kickstarter copy that just showed up. This is my first time playing Rolling Heights and sending on the prototype. I got to play it directly with the designer himself, with John DeClaire, with his wife, with Vlad. A really solid game. I enjoy Rolling Heights a lot. Got to play Millefiori. Millefiori over here, which I've been meaning to play for a while. And this is an interesting one because Millefiori was one that I played it. It was kind of like, I don't know if I need to play this again. I was going to. I was like, I want to play it again anyway because I want to review it. But I'll play it, I'll play a 3-player game because I think I played it at 4 and I played it at 3. So I was like, I'll play a 2-player game, I'll play a 4-player game, I'll move on from it. But it's actually been sitting in my head and I've been thinking about it. And I think it's a lighter game, but I kind of enjoyed it. So we'll see what happens there. Mind Management, I mentioned, I already played. Splendor, I got a few games of Splendor in, and I've proceeded to not like Splendor now because Splendor apparently is a game that works best if you play 4 or 5 cards the whole game, which means it's not a tableau building game, which is what I thought it was. I had my butt handed to me 2 games in a row, and I was like, okay, I don't like Splendor anymore. Not because I lost, I never mind losing a game, but because it seems that the way to win is to make Splendor not tableau building, which is the whole thing that I like about the game, and so that was fun for me. Not that I own Splendor anymore, but I'm like, okay, I'm glad I don't own Splendor anymore. We had Splendor Duel. I actually like Splendor Duel. Only one play so far, but I got a chance to try Splendor Duel, and I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it gave a good system as far as the back and forth, the head-to-head, and it placed at 20 points, not 15, which I think gives a bit more reason for the tableau building. Although, again, I didn't really heavily tableau build, so I'm not sure. But there was more of an interesting puzzle there. It's the kind of game system I'd like to play a bit more, but then move on from. War of the Ring, the card game. I played it once. I'm open to playing it again. I don't know. Like, I think that I actually asked the publisher for a review copy a while ago. If they send it to me, I'll dive into it more. If they don't send it to me, I don't know if I necessarily need it. I enjoyed War of the Ring, but it falls into the same camp as games like Twilight Struggle, Watergate, etc., where it's very card-driven, and so you have to kind of know the decks to really be optimal at the system. And for me, I'm not going to know that many I don't want to learn that many systems that are card-driven. And so I think Watergate for me is still going to be my go-to. War of the Ring, I enjoyed my play of it. I'm happy to play it again, but I don't know if I need to. Super Mega Lucky Box was a game I actually learnt at Gamma last year and never played, and I dove into the rules again and got it played, as well as Great Plains. I got a few games of Great Plains in, which is a fantastic game that I really enjoy. And then Potions of Azurland as well. I played Potions of Azurland. That's the new one from Warp Reality Games I mentioned. We have Air, Land, and Sea. I actually two-handed Potions of Azurland along with Air, Land, and Sea while playing that, and followed it up with Skulls of Sedlec when I was done with Air, Land, and Sea. Again, both fantastic games. That was with a viewer of the show. I got to play Scout, I mentioned already. I enjoy Scout. I don't love it, but I certainly enjoy it. My Shelfie, a game I played a lot on Board Game Arena. This is the first time I played it in person, but Bree from Lucky Duck was wandering around with a copy, so I played that, along with Nemalia, which I enjoyed without loving. It's another one of those, like, you know, different scoring systems as you overlay cards with a bunch of animals. I think if the art were better, or if things were a bit cleaner about the game, I'd probably like it more. But overall, I enjoyed it without loving it. We have Castles of Burgundy. Great. It was one of the last games of the convention, just sitting down, not even in the convention hall, just sitting on a floor with Chris George, with Meg, playing Castles of Burgundy. It was a lot of fun. Really enjoy that. I've been playing through Castle Burgundy a ton recently on Board Game Arena, but diving into it again, and just, it was one of my things where I don't think I've ever played with the Trade Routes expansion, and I've mentioned as part of my upcoming 12x12 review for Castle Burgundy, I plan on playing with all the various continent expansion, and that meant diving into it, well, again. We have Fleet the Dice game, which I had a chance to play. Fleet the Dice game, which I've played before, but I had a chance to dive into that. And then lastly, the Emerald Flame, which is a fantastic escape room, by the way. I have not finished yet. There's a few envelopes to go through, but I dove into the Emerald Flame, started it off, and it's just a fantastic game. And that's basically my Dice Tower West experience. I played a whole lot of games. I hung out with a whole lot of people who I know and enjoy, and friendships and all that. I got to hang out with a bunch of people. Did I miss? Oh my gosh, I missed a thing. I have to go mention one of these. So I also played The Crew. I played The Crew with a Patreon, and I played two games. I didn't log them. I played Paris and The Crew with a Patreon and with Tom Vassell. Or, well, The Crew was with Tom Vassell on Patreon, and Paris was just with a Patreon. I forgot about those games as well. Like, I totally forgot about that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. The whole thing's a lot of fun. Getting to meet people, getting to talk to people, getting to hang out. I really like conventions. I really like the camaraderie they bring. I like the renewed friendships you have each time you go to another one. There are people who I have never met outside of a convention, but I've met them so many times at a convention that I've just become friends with them through being at conventions. It's a lot. Conventions are expensive. A convention will run you anywhere between $500 to $1,000 easily when you go to one of these things. You can lower that price by splitting a room with someone. You know, you can get it down to like $300 to $600 if you're splitting a room, possibly even less if you're really going full Airbnb with a group of people. There are ways to make them more affordable. But obviously that's not even taking into account the lost time of work or whatever it is and all that stuff you have to manage. I really, really enjoyed Dice Tower West. And I've really enjoyed most of the conventions I've been to. If you're looking for an opportunity to play games, to connect, I think Dice Tower West would be a lot of fun. I assume Dice Tower East as well, I just haven't been. And I assume Dice Tower Retreat, although apparently good luck getting into that. I had a lot of fun. I made new friends. I built, relationships that were there already. I played a lot of games that I already knew. And I learned a lot of games that I hadn't yet played. And then there were a bunch of people who I wanted to hang out with and see that I didn't have a chance to. And a bunch of games that I wanted to play that I didn't have a chance to. There's always going to be more to do, more to play, more people to talk to and see than you'll ever have time for. That just means the next one, the next convention, is the opportunity to try all of that. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the recap to a degree. There's a lot of things going on at these events. Whether the location you're in, whether it's restaurants, shows, whatever it is, wherever you go, there's touristy aspects of things to do that you could do. Or whether it's just about sitting in a convention hall playing games for 4 days straight, which I don't think is bad either. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and I hope you have a good one. Also, for clarity's sake, by 4 days straight, I do recommend sleeping and showering and eating in between that. I just meant like the generic straight.